Hello, everybody. Welcome to Shred's Takes. Mike Shredder. We're going to do a solo episode today, breaking down the Boston Celtics offense, which is going to be very difficult to stop for teams because if obviously Kristaps Porzingis stays healthy, the way they run their offense this year, Joe Mazzulla's made a lot of really good adjustments in terms of how to get the ball quicker moving in their offense and to be able to get it to move more freely and get better spacing. So the first thing I want to do is I want to explain to you guys a little bit about, I think, their main action that they ran against the Knicks the other night in preseason. Now, they're going to probably have many different actions during the year, but this is one action that works really well for them, I think. It's called the Spain action, which I'll explain to you guys that in just a second, but let me share the play. Okay. So what this basically is, this is what we call the Spain action, right? So the Spain action is pretty simple, right? You basically, in a sense, if I can zoom it in here, right? You have the five setting a screen, the one who's going to reject this, right? You have the two right there kind of in the paint. What the two is going to do is if the five rolls, he sets a screen and then he pops out, right? But Porzingis, as we know, is a stretch big, right? So he's going to shoot a lot of threes. So this is Drew Holiday right here. This would be Derek White. This would be Jason Tatum. This would be Jaylen Brown, right? Let's just call it like that is, because that's usually how they're running. Jaylen Brown kind of down there, and then they go here, right? So start the play up, right? You have that screen being set. You have Drew Holiday rejecting the screen. Now, why is that important to reject the screen? Because you have a big here that's being in drop coverage, which if you go off the screen, that doesn't really allow, I mean, you can still get good spacing, but if they're playing in a drop and they're allowing you to reject it where you can get into the teeth of the defense and then you have two guarding you, I think that's important, right? So we have that happening. Porzingis is going to pop here, right? So instead of rolling, all Jaylen Brown is going to do is just pop to the wing here, right? So you're going to have Porzingis popping here for a shot. And this worked a bunch of times against the Knicks where they just got open shot, right? So Jaylen Brown, as you can see, going to pop right here, right? And then you have Porzingis popping right here, right? So that's all they're trying to do is create good spacing, right? They're just trying to create really good spacing in their offense, right? So you swing to Porzingis and he shoots the shot, right? But what they also could do if the big is able to close out to Porzingis, which is unlikely, but if they have a defender, for example, who closes out here, that's a swing here and then another swing. That's something they do really well, right? So it's not just to get Porzingis the ball here, but again, it's the ball movement angle. You have five guys in the court who can shoot it, right? That's something they didn't really have in abundance last year with Robert Williams in the court. Even though Horford's a good three-point shooter, Porzingis is a tougher guy to defend just because of his pure size, right? And the fact that he can put the ball in the court and he could shoot it from a lot deeper than a guy like Horford can, right? Horford's great, but Porzingis is just a different animal, right? So you have that pass game made and that's a shot being happening, right? So that's their main action. They ran a lot against the Knicks, but let's go to their second play. I'll zoom in here a little bit to kind of show you guys a little bit what's going on. So we have Jason Tatum, we got Porzingis, we got Derek White, we got Jaylen Brown, and then this would be Drew Holiday, right? This is an out of bounds play that I liked. Now, I think that there's a simple way to guard it, which I'll explain to you guys also why this offense is so difficult to guard after I go through it. But what and how you would defend these actions. So they said a double pin down for Jaylen Brown. This worked really well. Jericho Sims is on him the other night, and Jericho Sims is a good defender. Jericho Sims also is 6'10", so it's pretty hard to get through these. And they set these pin downs very effectively where they have one set down low, one set down high. And again, what happens is the defender has to be forced to go underneath the screen, right? So these pin downs get set. And what happens is Jaylen Brown is able to curl this and you just get a nice open shot, right? And the good news is what you can do at this action, right? If you don't have that going, you can have Tatum go here. You can have Derek White pop out. You can set an inverted screen up like this. Jaylen Brown comes up to his right hand and Porzingis pops, right? Everything is just revolving around the 5-out offense and allowing spacing for their offense that they didn't have last year. So it's very difficult to guard because of the ability for them to space the court. Okay. So let's go back to how I would, if I was a coach and I was going against this, how would specifically would I guard their Spain action? Okay. So their Spain action, as we went through, it was, again, that screen. Big thing I would do is I would have him go, you would force him into the screen. You would not let him reject the screen. Big thing I would want is I want the big to be able to play Porzingis and the guard at the same time. When you reject the screen, it kind of makes that difficult because then the big guy and the guard both guarding him at the same time. Guard Drew Holiday. So Porzingis is going to be wide open, right? The reason why it's difficult to do is because, again, Drew Holiday is a big physical guard who's going to get to his spots. And if you're playing a drop coverage, you're trying to force the guard into that big, right? So maybe you have to play higher up on your drop. Maybe you got to switch it. But it's hard to guard because, again, Porzingis, if you switch it, he can just go post, right? So that's the one thing. But if I was a coach, I would first make him go over the top of it, right? Go over the top of the screen. And then what you do is when that ball gets swung, you have to make sure your big can get there and you're in a scramble mode, right? Everyone's got to talk and be able to get to those different spots. But the big thing is you want to try and get the guard to go over the top of the screen. Let's go back to the beginning. So instead of rejecting. So you see how here they reject the screen. That goes right into his hands, right? So that's what makes it difficult because Porzingis' ability to pop and space, again, he's a really good pick and pop big. That's the one problem if you continuously let that reject screen happen. Now, let's go back to the out of bounds play that I showed before, right? So the big thing to show with this, let's zoom in just a second here. Again, with this, it's a double pin down. So the big thing you want to do, either you're switching this or you have to lock and trail, right? And you can't play underneath these pin downs because Jaylen Brown's too good of a shooter. Tatum's too good of a shooter. That's not going to work, right? So you cannot play underneath the screen here. So what you have to do is either lock and trail or you got to switch these, right? And, again, I know Porzingis can score in the post pretty effectively, but if you had Jericho Sims on him, I think that matchup's fine, right? That's fine. Right. So you got to make sure you have a bigger defender on Jaylen Brown so you can switch that, or you have to be able to lock and trail. Now, let's say you lock and trail and you're able to, get to Jaylen Brown. The big thing now, again, if you're in that big spot, is forcing Jaylen Brown to come off the screen. So again, if he sets an inverted screen like this, you got to make sure he comes off the screen, right? Or if you allow to reject it, you have to make sure he's going to his left. Jaylen Brown struggles going to his left, but you have to make sure that you're able to get back and scramble, right? If you're going to stunt on the shooter here, you got to be able to get back to the guy in the corner, right? You're going to have the 1, the 4, the 2, the 5, and then Jaylen Brown kind of figuring it out, right? Big thing is you got to be able to stunt and get back, right? So that's kind of how it works. It's difficult to guard though, because again, of the ability of Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Derek White, Drew Holiday, all be able to go off ball screens and get downhill. That's the tough part, right? So if you're trying to navigate that offense, the reason why it's going to be so difficult to guard is because of Porzingis' ability to space the court and guards who can play really well in the pick and roll. They have a true point guard now who really, and Drew Holiday, that can play off the pick and roll very effectively. And Peyton Pritchard's ascension off the bench, he's looking really good as well. That's going to be very difficult to guard, right? So again, the Celtics are going to be really good. I wanted to explain their offense a little bit. This is a short clip to do that. But again, how you're able to defend that is going to be up to, what you're looking to do from a strategic standpoint on ball screens, right? Are you going to drop coverage? Are you going to blitz it? Or are you going to switch, right? That's going to be the key to trying to be able to defend the Celtics offense, which is going to be very difficult to guard. So that was just kind of my little breakdown, and we'll do more formal episodes coming up this week. But thank you for tuning in. Have a good one.